Justin Bieber hadn't planned to steal the spotlight, but when the clerk called his name and he rose from the witness bench, the temperature in Manhattan's marble-pillared courtroom seemed to spike 10 degrees. Every eye traced the sharp lines of his tailored charcoal suit, the hush so absolute that the creak of the wooden pews felt like thunder. Reporters poised their pens, jurors leaned forward, and even Judge Hollis paused mid-note. Opposite Bieber sat Shaun Diddy Combs. His expression, a crafted mask of cool, yet one twitch at the corner of his mouth betrayed a brewing storm. Bieber's voice, softened by Canadian lilt and years of stagecraft, cut through the tension. He spoke of mentorship warped into manipulation, of late-night calls that blurred guidance with control, of parties where champagne flowed and boundaries evaporated. Each recollection landed like a hammer blow, cracking the veneer that had long shielded the mogul. As the singer described a 2015 after-party, the glint of Diddy's diamond cufflinks pressing Cassie Ventura's wrist, the hollow laugh that followed an off-colour joke, gasps fluttered across the gallery. Diddy shot to his feet, chair screeching, his booming rebuttal, lies, betrayal, ricocheting off panelled walls. A water glass shattered beneath his fist, droplets scattering like crystal confetti. Bailiffs stepped in, hands hovering near holsters. The judge's gavel rained down, demanding order. Outside, phones buzzed with push notifications. Our Bieber bombshell surged past 1 million tweets in minutes, influencers live streaming hot takes while helicopters circled for courthouse shots. Inside, court clerks hustled fresh printouts of the singer's overnight Instagram confession, his black and white photo with Cassie, that stark apology, into the official record. Jurors traded uneasy glances, one dabbed a tear. Diddy, breathing hard, locked eyes with Bieber. A silent duel of past loyalty turned lethal. With the room finally subdued, Bieber lowered his gaze, hands trembling yet resolute, and renewed his oath. The message was unmistakable. The untouchable titan now faced a witness who had once called him brother, and whose testimony threatened to unravel decades of gilded secrecy in front of a world that suddenly couldn't look away. Rewind to 2009, when YouTube still felt like a friendly cul-de-sac, and a 15-year-old kid from Stratford, Ontario, mop of caramel hair, purple hoodie tugged at the sleeves, was catapulted from mall talent shows to backstage VIP suites in the time it takes a video to buffer. The fairy tale pivot came the night Justin Bieber first shook hands with Shaun Diddy Combs at a star-soaked industry mixer in Los Angeles, the room awash in strobe-lit swagger and the scent of top-shelf tequila. Diddy, diamonds blazing against a white tux lapel, locked eyes on the nervous teenager with the primal instinct of a kingpin spotting a new crown jewel. Within minutes he was cooing promises of chart domination and private jet mentorship, waving away any lingering doubt with a laugh that could melt studio glass. Cameras rolled as the mogul draped a possessive arm around Justin's narrow shoulders, and, in that soon-to-be infamous sound bite, declared with theatrical grin, "I've got custody of this kid for the next 48 hours, y'all." Back then the quip landed like a harmless prank. Laughter bubbled, iPhones flashed. But in the cold light of hindsight, it feels more like the opening line of a cautionary tale. For Justin, those 48 hours stretched into a fever dream of luxury suites and midnight studio sessions where sleep was traded for selfies with mononym legends, where a whirlwind introduction to fame blasted away any notion of normal teenage life. Diddy introduced him to roped-off corners of Hollywood, where liquor flowed without ID checks and whispers of industry politics curled like cigarette smoke around velvet furniture. Each nod from the powerful mogul came with an unspoken contract: gratitude, loyalty, access, on Diddy's terms. Reporters spun the meetings as benevolent mentorship, but privately, Justin's team worried about the speed and glare of this ascent. Even Justin, swept along by adrenaline, sensed an off-kilter energy when Diddy's jokes lingered too long and invitations arrived too late at night. What felt at first like a rocket to the stars was beginning to reveal a darker gravitational pull, one that would shadow the singer through every dizzy step of his early stardom. By 2011, the jet stream shimmer of Justin's overnight rise had hardened into a gilded cage, and the key rattled in only one pocket: Diddy's. The mogul's entourage became Justin's shadow army, stylists who vetoed t-shirts that weren't brandable, Security staff who scanned every text that pinged his phone, publicists who fed him lines as if he were auditioning for himself. Weeknights blurred into neon-drenched after-parties where the kid who still carried a learner's permit was ushered past velvet ropes thicker than his biceps. In the glow of strobe lights, Diddy played ringmaster, nudging Justin toward circles of seasoned hitmakers with whispered reminders to soak up the game. Yet each lavish introduction arrived with strings. Once, at an MTV rooftop fete, Justin tried to tell a heartfelt story about his mum. Diddy sliced in mid-sentence. "What the people really want to hear, Jay, is how many platinum plaques you're about to stack." Laughter erupted, but Justin's cheeks flamed beneath the paparazzi flashes. Another night at a New Year's bash in Miami, Diddy draped a custom leather jacket across Justin's shoulders, price tag rumoured north of 5 digits, then murmured, "Now you look like money. Don't ever let them see you sweat." Cameras snapped, yet the weight of that jacket felt less like luxury and more like armour he'd never asked to wear. The tension sharpened in quieter corners. Hotel corridors where Diddy's handlers suggested wardrobe changes at 3 a.m. Conference calls where an audible sigh from Justin triggered a 12-minute lecture on gratitude. Friends from Stratford noticed his text grew clipped, as if every emoji risked breaching an invisible NDA. Behind the scenes, management whispered that the boys' schedule read like a Wall Street ticker. Appearances, photo calls, red-eye flights, all choreographed around Diddy's own calendar. In rare off-hours, Justin sat at a piano, fingers hovering over keys, wondering why the notes no longer rang joyful. The stage lights still burned blinding bright, but somewhere between the VIP booths and the late-night pep talks, the glow had shifted. Mentorship had mutated into surveillance, and the cost of staying in orbit around Diddy's son was steadily draining the air from Justin's lungs. By 2014, the friction between Justin's glossy public persona and his frayed private nerves finally sparked, and the fallout sprayed across every tabloid cover in Times Square. One humid January night in Miami, he gunned a rented Lamborghini down Pine Tree Drive, lights off, siren chased, mugshot grinning like a dare. Yet behind the half-lidded eyes sat weeks of insomnia, and a head so thick with Diddy's commandments that silence felt louder than engines. While cable hosts sneered "spoiled pop brat," insiders traced the meltdown to a 2-word text Diddy had fired off hours earlier, "Don't wobble," after Justin confessed he was too exhausted to attend a surprise club appearance. The crash course in damage control accelerated. PR teams spun apology statements, lawyers greased court wheels, stylists swapped orange jumpsuit memes for designer comeback jackets. But the next months exposed deeper fissures. In Australia, a paparazzo bumped Justin's shoulder. The singer lashed out, camera smashed to shards. TMZ replayed the clip on loop, citing unhinged behaviour, yet no one heard the off-camera voice, Diddy's right-hand aide, snapping that a single unscripted scowl could tank brand value. Night after night, Justin found himself circling airport lounges at 3 a.m, nerves jangling as managers tacked shows onto an already maxed out tour, citing how Puff does 12 cities in 9 days, easy. Backstage he chugged energy drinks as if they might dissolve the anxiety chewing his ribcage. On stage he flashed the trademark grin that had launched a million gifs, only to crumble in hotel elevators where he begged bodyguards for 10 minutes without cameras. By late 2015, a swirl of cancelled concerts hinted that even platinum lungs can seize under crushing atmospheres. In private therapy, he admitted his greatest fear wasn't prison or headlines, but the look in Diddy's eyes when a plan went off script, equal parts fatherly disappointment and empire-level threat. When another DUI arrest hit in 2016, Justin's whisper to a friend was leaked. "I can't be perfect for him anymore." The public saw rebellion. Behind the scenes, it was a 22-year-old suffocating under a mentorship that had morphed into an invisible choke chain, every misstep tightening the grip on his dwindling sense of self. The first time Justin truly felt the chill behind Diddy's Gatsby glow was a July 2015 after-party in a candle-lit Beverly Hills mansion where champagne misted the air and a Grammy winner crooned over the house DJ's beat. One floor above the dance floor, he spotted Cassie Ventura balanced on sky-high stilettos, laughing politely as industry power brokers buzzed around her. Then Diddy materialised, fingers lacing possessively around her wrist. The smile left Cassie's face so fast it looked edited out in real time. He leaned in, whispered something that made her shoulders stiffen, then steered her toward a balcony as if she were a prop that needed repositioning. Justin, 21, already fraying from non-stop touring, felt his stomach knot. When he stepped forward, one of Diddy's aides blocked the path with a genial, "Parties that way, Biebs," and the warning in his grin said this scene wasn't meant for witnesses. The unease stuck like smoke in Justin's lungs, and 2 years later it roared back when Cassie's name flashed on his phone at 2:14 a.m. "He monitors everything," she typed, words tumbling out in short, panicked bursts. "I'm not allowed to be alone with friends. I feel watched." Justin, half awake in a Tokyo hotel suite, thumbed a reply. "You're not crazy. Talk to someone you trust." But the message felt flimsy even before it's sent. Guilt gnawed at him when she wrote back a single broken heart emoji. Then, in 2018, a grainy surveillance clip from a luxury LA hotel leaked online. Cassie chatting with a producer until Diddy slid beside her, arm curling around her waist, voice brushing her ear. She froze, plastered on a mechanical grin, and let him guide her away like a driver steering a stolen car. Watching the footage months later, Justin felt the blood drain from his face, proof that the balcony scene hadn't been nerves or jet lag, but a pattern. He replayed those 2015 seconds in his head, wishing he'd pushed past the aide, dragged Cassie into a hallway, told someone, anyone, what he'd seen. Instead, his silence calcified into regret, a weight he carried through every encore until the day it finally cracked open in court. By 2018, Justin Bieber was determined to trade the scorched earth schedule for something resembling a heartbeat. He slipped a gold ring onto Hailey Baldwin's finger beneath a low Bahamian sunset, then retreated to a lakeside Ontario cabin where Instagram feeds filled with grainy Polaroids, guitars by a campfire, muddy sneakers on a dock, replacing the velvet rope glitz that had once defined him. Therapy sessions stretched longer than studio lock-ins. Pastors, breathwork coaches, and neurofeedback specialists mapped out the trauma loops left by a decade of dopamine-on-demand fame. For the first time since his voice had cracked mid-key change, the streaming numbers on his phone felt less urgent than the steady metronome of Hailey's breathing beside him at night. He unfollowed half the industry on social media, blocked Diddy's number, and let the silence regrow his instincts. But success has a way of knocking even when you bolt the door. In early 2023, an offer arrived from Diddy's camp, a cameo vocal on the Mogul's feel-good Love album, pitched as a healing bridge between past and present. Friends warned him, "You left that chapter for a reason." Yet nostalgia, courtesy, and the promise of a quick, uplifting collaboration blurred his better judgment. Justin cut the hook in a single afternoon, laid-back harmonies drifting over retro soul loops, and convinced himself it was closure. The track dropped to warm streaming numbers, but 3 months later, the first wave of allegations against Diddy began cresting. Claims of coercion, financial intimidation, and whispered mentions of trafficking. Headlines stapled Justin's name to the scandal. Bieber co-signs Diddy comeback amid abuse rumours. In private, he felt a sickening déjà vu, as if the balcony grip on Cassie's wrist were replaying on global loop. Hailey found him pacing the kitchen at 4 a.m, phone buzzing with reporters' requests. He muttered that he'd handed a microphone to the same man who once confiscated his own voice. The regret metastasized when Cassie's civil suit surfaced that fall, echoing the very messages she had typed to him in 2017. Justin realized he hadn't just reopened an old door, he'd stepped straight back into the shadow he had spent years clawing away from, and this time the world expected him to turn on the light. The internet's tinder caught a fresh spark on a raw December night in 2023 when a grainy 2009 backstage snippet, Diddy draped over a baby-faced Bieber crooning, "I've got custody of this kid for 48 hours, y'all," surfaced on TikTok and rocketed past 40 million views before dawn. Context hardly mattered. Users freeze-framed each micro-expression, dissected Justin's awkward half-smile, and rewound the mogul's possessive arm looped around the teen's narrow shoulders like a proprietary tag. Within hours, the clip migrated to Twitter, then Reels, chasing algorithms like an escaped cougar and dragging the decade-old power dynamic into the blinding LED glare of 2020's outrage culture, hashtags multiplied like gremlins. Protect Justin, Diddy exposed, or where were the adults? Press outlets fanned the flames with side-by-side stills, the old footage on the left, a present-day Justin staring down arenas on the right, captioned, "From protege to porn." Panel shows booked body language experts who highlighted Justin's fleeting lip tuck as evidence of silent distress. Self-styled detectives stitched timelines linking the clip to later meltdowns, turning correlation into gospel. Even late-night hosts abandoned punchlines for pointed jabs about custody arrangements that don't require a judge. By breakfast, the pop icon's phone was a live wire, publicists pleading for a statement, group chats dinging with industry friends urging caution, Haley urging him to breathe. Justin scrolled the comments, a nauseating scroll roulette of empathy, anger, and cynical "he knew what he signed up for" takes. Separately, Cassie's name trended as sleuths resurfaced the 2015 balcony photo and 2018 hotel footage, threading a sordid narrative that placed her and Justin on parallel tracks of control. Meanwhile, Diddy's camp issued a curt dismissal. Old clip taken out of context, stop chasing clicks, but the algorithm smelled blood. A change.org petition demanding an industry inquiry into underage artist exploitation hit 200,000 signatures by noon. Seasoned execs, suddenly camera-shy, declined comment. Justin felt the walls of silence he'd once cowered behind, shaking like loose stadium rafters. Every screen he opened asked the same question in bold font or subtext. What did you see, and why won't you tell us? That question lodged beneath his ribcage, thumping louder than any stadium crowd, daring him to finally pick a side. At precisely 8:12 a.m. on January 23rd, 2025, the fifth morning of Diddy's headline-dominating trial, Justin Bieber tapped share on his iPhone and lobbed a truth grenade straight into the algorithm. The post was disarmingly stark, a black and white throwback of a teenage Justin and Cassie Ventura standing shoulder to shoulder at a 2012 charity gala, her smile tentative, his eyes already ringed by tour bus fatigue. The caption read like an open wound stitched into 3 breathless sentences. Cassie, I remember. I watched. I stayed silent, and I'm sorry. What I saw can't stay in the dark anymore. Within 90 seconds, likes detonated past 1 million. By the time his coffee cooled, Number I Remember was the #1 trend on 6 continents, and news anchors were reading his words as breaking banners scrolled beneath their desks. Yet, the real scorch came in his stories, where Bieber unfurled a swipe-through timeline of screenshots and voice notes, a 2015 text from Cassie typing, "He says even you can't save me," surveillance stills from that 2018 hotel hallway, a muffled 30-second voice memo of Diddy reminding a panicked Justin that family business stays in-house. Each slide arrived with a single-line annotation, "I should have spoken then." That felt less like commentary and more like self-indictment. Phones buzzed in every corner of Manhattan's federal courthouse. Prosecutors huddled, defense attorneys blanched, and reporters sprinted for signal bars. Diddy, scrolling from the defense table, went rigid enough to snap. He slammed his fist on the oak, sent a water glass skittering, and hissed to counsel that the ungrateful kid had just nuked the jury pool. Back in Los Angeles, Scooter Braun issued a terse no comment, while Hailey Bieber posted a lone white heart emoji that fans passed like scripture. Within hours, TMZ aired a 2016 deposition clip where a jittery assistant corroborated Justin's balcony story. Variety pushed a late-day piece quoting unnamed label execs who now claimed they'd always suspected Diddy wielded fear like a signing bonus. Even brands felt the quake. A sneaker collaboration scheduled for Bieber's summer tour quietly changed its launch art from neon pink to somber monochrome, signalling solidarity without saying the word. By nightfall, Justin's feed had become a living exhibit, part confession, part evidence locker, forcing the court of public opinion to convene ahead of the one with sworn jurors and making silence for everyone left in Diddy's orbit suddenly sound like complicity. Minutes after the bailiff called the court to order, the atmosphere felt less like legal procedure and more like a live wire humming under polished oak. Every juror's phone had been surrendered in the vestibule, but the glow from reporters' laptop screens confirmed what everyone already knew. Justin Bieber's Instagram confession was now part of the official evidence stack. Shaun Diddy Combs tried to sit statuesque, but the rhythmic tick in his jaw betrayed a man bracing for impact. When the clerk announced the prosecution's next witness, Cassie Ventura, he exhaled so sharply the stenographer looked up. Cassie crossed the well in pin-drop silence, her heels measuring each step, her gaze levelled like a searchlight. As she raised her hand to swear in, Diddy's composure snapped. He lurched to his feet, palm slamming the defence table, crystal water glass detonating into shards. "It's all lies, all of it," he barked, finger jabbing the air first at Cassie, then toward the gallery as if the cameras themselves were co-conspirators. Gasps rippled through spectators. Two bailiffs closed ranks, hands poised a breath from cuffs. The judge's gavel cracked 3 times, voice slicing through the uproar. One more outburst, and Mr. Combs would conduct the rest of his defence from a holding cell. With Diddy forced back into his chair, Cassie began in an even tenor that made the jury lean forward as one body. She confirmed Bieber had witnessed multiple incidents of control, recalled Diddy whispering threats about what happens to people who forget loyalty, and identified the balcony grip captured in the now viral hotel footage when the prosecutor handed up blown-up screenshots of Bieber's 2017 texts. "Cassie, this isn't normal. Get help." A juror in the back row wiped a tear with the sleeve of his blazer. Defense counsel objected on grounds of relevance. The judge overruled, noting the Instagram post had opened the door. Each new exhibit, the late-night voice memo, the 2018 hallway clip, landed like a body blow to whatever armour Diddy still wore. He stared at the tabletop, shoulders hunched, lips moving in a silent calculus of damage. Outside, news alerts stacked faster than push notifications could be cleared, and inside, the jury traded sidelong glances that read less like curiosity and more like an emerging verdict. By recess, the once untouchable mogul looked cornered, the courtroom's hush thicker than any bassline he'd ever blasted, while Cassie stepped down calm as the eye of a storm she no longer feared. The verdict is still weeks away, yet the shockwaves crest long before the gavel falls. Within 24 hours of Cassie's testimony, Fortune 500 brands yank sponsorships, playlists strip Diddy's tracks, and a global vodka partnership evaporates like spilled liquor on a studio floor. Streaming services issue statements about ongoing review, while label executives once photographed clinking champagne with the mogul now ghost incoming calls. A dozen former employees, assistants, dancers, junior producers, file sworn affidavits echoing patterns of intimidation. Late-night shows assemble montage reels of industry titans publicly backpedaling. On Capitol Hill, a bipartisan subcommittee schedules hearings on the protection of underage artists, citing Bieber's Instagram archive as a cultural flashpoint. The financial hemorrhage reaches Wall Street tickers. Combs, Enterprises loses a quarter of its valuation in 2 trading sessions, investors bailing faster than a faulty smoke machine. Inside a Soho loft, Justin watches the headlines scroll mute on a flat screen, thumb idling over a near-empty notification bar. Silence, at last, where frantic pings once ruled. He exhales, not with triumph, but with a weighty, exhausted relief, aware that confession is only prologue to accountability. Haley slides a mug of chamomile into his hands. He curls around its warmth, whispering that he hopes the next generation learns a different definition of mentorship. Across town, Cassie meets with advocacy lawyers drafting a foundation for survivors of entertainment industry abuse. She signs documents with steady strokes, unshaken when cameras flash outside the conference room windows, and while Diddy's legal team scrambles to salvage reputation, social media rallies around a new hashtag, Stagelight Justice, driving donations to support witnesses now willing to testify. In boardrooms and tour buses, a quiet reckoning overtakes the usual backslap bravado. NDAs are re-examined, chaperone policies revised, artist wellness budgets doubled. A music empire built on invincibility trembles, and the echo of those tremors reaches every green room that ever hushed a frightened whisper. For Justin, the road ahead is still lined with spotlights, but tonight he lets them dim, content to hear his heartbeat sync with Haley's in the dark, knowing that one long-withheld truth has finally outrun the silence that once threatened to swallow them all.